of the ancient astronauts.
Yes,
there were folks here a long time ago that knew a whole lot more than we know now. Civilization has cycles, and we did another loop here, and we're coming to another apex in our culture. The question being, how does planet Earth get its act together so it's welcome to join the galactic community? Because I think right now we're kind of isolated. Prime Directive says they're not supposed to fool with us. We're supposed to figure it out on our own. And how do we take the general insanity of economics in the world and resource management and suppression of technologies and sort of normalize that and give everybody a fair shot at just enjoying their life,
Right. So do you believe we're being visited by extraterrestrials who are keeping an eye on us?
They definitely monitor what's going on, but they're under the rule of non-interference, although there's other ones that violate that and kind of sneak into people's backyards and talk to them and leave again. They're not going to land on the White House lawn. That's a violation of the program unless we're really in a crisis management thing, and we should never get there. We should be able to get our act together. My long-term goal, and this is a little crazy, I really think there is a time when there will be interplanetary commerce. We have things they want. We have, they have stuff we want, and we can join the community. I think I'd like to see that in my lifetime be a goal for this planet.
That would be amazing, wouldn't it? Okay, moving on to the residents of Milton Keynes rather than extraterrestrials. Then they've asked a few questions, so I'll hit you with the first one. This is from Christine from Milton Keynes, and she's saying that you clearly already have the dream job. What would your idea of a nightmare job be?
This is going to sound funny. There was a time when I was hired by Electronic Arts, and I was a very heady job and a lot of money. I was the chief audio officer at the corporate headquarters in Redwood Shores, California. A lot of blessings came with that. I'm not going to say that wasn't good. They moved me to San Francisco. I got a nice house by the ocean. There was a lot of money around. But the job was being a manager. And so instead of doing sound design and music, even though it was like once removed from that, my job was to hire, fire, schedules. And I knew I was in the wrong place when I started looking forward to lunch every day. Started feeling like high school.
All right.
So I kind of had to sit down and say, guys, I love the opportunity, et cetera, but just for me, I spent the last 40 years being a creative, and so let's get a different manager. I'm going to go back to being an artist. So I left. So that could be hardly a nightmare, but it didn't turn out well, even though it looked like it was going to be very successful, something to do financially.
Mark from Milton Keynes is asking, you've met a lot of iconic actors and directors over the past 40 years. Were you starstruck by any of them?
A little bit. When I had Leonard Nimoy sitting in my studio, that was like, wow, Spock's here. and the same thing, William Shatner comes over, and Bill's just a great guy, and this was on Star Trek V, and he came with the producer, Harv Bennett, and it was kind of funny because the direction from Leonard Nimoy is the stuff. He's as good as anybody. The direction from Bill Shatner is he's more like a film student. He just wants to keep trying new things and let's be different and stuff like that. And I remember the producer, Harv Bennett, when we wrapped up the session with Shatner, he goes, no, I don't care what he said. You tell me what he said before we do it. Because he didn't want things to get out of control. He wanted Jerry Goldsmith to score the entire movie with choir and not use an orchestra. Because it had we're going to go see God kind of play, but it was just impractical. Tell Jerry Goldsmith to score and tie two hands behind his back and just sing. It doesn't work.
So I guess it's fitting that the two guys that you mentioned are both Star Trek people.
Yeah, I'm a true Trekkie.
You're a Trekkie, Alan.
I'm a total Trekkie.
Okay, moving on. Colin from Milton Keynes is saying that throughout your career, you seem to have focused on the horror and science fiction genre, but is there a film style you haven't worked on but would dearly love to?
I'll use the word pigeonhole, but it's not that restrictive. People ask you to come back and do what you do. You get a reputation. That guy's good at that. Get him for that. But very, very little known. One of my clients was the Scripps Institution of Oceanography for over 10 years. And I did all this beautiful nature music with acoustic guitars and voices, and the scenes are underwater and the tops of mountains and working with the planet and the weather. And I have a whole series that's really unreleased. I want to put it out of beautiful music, actually beautiful. Forget the horror music for a second. I can I have a full range, but the emphasis has been in science fiction and horror because that's what people think of me as.
Okay, last question then is from Marion from Milton Keynes, who's asking, when you read a book, do you hear the sound design in your mind?
The answer is yes. In fact, I think that's why I found success in movies, because I'm an artist first. I was a visual artist. Reading a book or watching a movie, it's all going on in my head as I'm taking in the other media input, whether it's words or images. So that's where I found success, as being an audio artist for multimedia, as opposed to writing a 3-minute hit song. That just wasn't me.
Last question from me then is, I know you've been touring in the States, and I think you were over here last year in Europe. Are you planning to come over to Europe or the UK anytime soon?
In 2010, I was asked to perform music from these films as a concert, and I was invited to Krakow, Poland, to the Unsound Festival, and that was my first outing there. And I can't, it's a little laptop orchestra. I got my laptop and my MIDI keyboard, and I've been using a VJ named Jay Boyd, a lady from Australia, a very talented video artist, and so we make an artsy thing out of the concert. And so I've been invited to do that all over the world. I've been in St. Petersburg and Paris, London, New York, Toronto. I just played Los Angeles last night, the Egyptian Theater, and we're going to do more of that. And there's a record label, Death Waltz. They're a fellow named Spencer Hickman has found a little success in doing vinyl of all this stuff.
Oh, right. Okay, so people can see any future tour dates on the Alan Howarth website, presumably.
Yeah, we have a website, www.alanhowarth.com, what a concept. And, I have announcements for my schedule, and also I have CDs, and I have some original manuscript copies from Escape from New York, Halloween 2 and 3. You can get the music as I wrote it out for the scoring, which was all post-scoring. We improvised it and then had to go back and figure out what we did. So, and everything that they buy from my website, I actually autograph them. So they become collectibles. Hopefully not too many people buy them and put them right on eBay, but I'm sure it happens.
Okay, well, thanks. I'll put a link on the Plane Talking website to your website. It sounds like your plane is now boarding, so thanks very much, Alan, for agreeing to talk with me on this very special Halloween evening. It's been a great pleasure for me to talk to you, and I appreciate you taking time out from your heavy schedule to fit this in for Seclo Sounds Radio.
Great, Mick. Let's talk again soon.
Oh, absolutely. And we'll just finish with another track. So before your flight departs, what's your final track, Alan?
Let's go ahead and take the opening scene from a movie that probably nobody ever heard of called Retribution. It's sort of a traveling song. So for the beginning of this journey, let's go ahead and travel on out.
Okay, here we go. We'll finish off with the opening theme from Retribution. Thanks, Alan, and have a good flight.
All right, Mick.
As Alan disappears through security, we can listen to his final track, followed by one of my favourite tracks. If you know who the artist of my choice is, please email me, Mick Bannister, planetalking@seclosounds.org. There will be a shout-out next week for the first correct answer. Now, the opening track to the film Retribution, composed by my guest, Alan Howarth. You have been listening to Plain Talking with your host, Mick Bannister. In the Departure Lounge was Alan Howarth, award-winning Hollywood sound designer, composer and musician. Join me next week where my guests will be Ellen Elise Bannister and Zach Pearson, discussing, amongst other things, their new film Metronomes. To contact the programme, please email plaintalking@seclosounds.org. Until next time, goodbye.
MK Pulse proudly sponsors Seclo Sounds. MK Pulse is Milton Keynes' local magazine, bringing helpful information on food, health, fashion, money, travel, culture, and much more to 66,000 readers every month. Plus news, views, and what's on from around the city. If it's happening in Milton Keynes, it's in MK Pulse, and it's available online at www.mkpulse.co.uk. MK Pulse and Seclo Sounds, the heart and soul of the city.